This is a demonstration of parameter tables inside product templates. This is a capability that's new with the December 2022 release of NX, and we're excited to bring this to you. So this is going to let us start to use parameter tables, which are a construct, of course, in NX. It's been around for a couple of years, and what it's going to let us do is set up a parameter table with multiple expressions and set configurations in the parameter table. And as we change configurations in the parameter table, it'll set the value, simultaneously set the value of a bunch of expressions at the same time. And what we can start to do then is expose those configurations inside a product template and allow you to very easily use an option menu kind of interface in a product template to choose a configuration, and that configuration then will go out and again simultaneously set the values of a bunch of expressions and initiate an update, right? So a very simple example here. This is a little proof of concept towable radar. And so a radome here that sits on the back of a trailer and gets towed around, and then the legs can deploy, and then we can stand up the radome out there. And conceptually, it's got some different positions that it's going to be in, right? We're talking about parts and assemblies. Assemblies in particular, we like to use this for this kind of positioning kinds of things. We don't necessarily want to drive the shape of parts into a bunch of different configurations necessarily in this context here. But for an assembly here, we're going to use this for a bunch of positioning. You see this has a product template already on here. So as we go to edit this guy, we've got a couple things going on. This option menu at the top here is giving us some states here. It's a fully deployed state where the legs are fully extended. Fully stowed, where they're uplet, just like this. And there's one where the legs are deployed and they come down to the ground, and then the bed raises on there. And now it's in kind of the stand-up state, and then we can deploy the radome on top, right? And so that's kind of the sequence of how this works. And interestingly, once you've got it in the option menu, you can use the arrow keys to kind of step through those. And that's a very poor man's animation, which is kind of fun. But you'll notice there's a none option on here as well. And what this does is allows us to put it in a state where we can go and manipulate these independently, right? And drive these expressions directly. And that's also useful, of course, right? To be able to do this kind of interaction, right? So, and then of course, as we jump into one of these pre-configured configurations here, then these will follow along as we do that. But we won't be able to edit these in directly as we're in one of the existing configurations. Okay, so we don't ever get into a state. We don't ever get into a state where we have one widget here telling us that we're in a state, and actually we're not. So anyway, this is kind of the interaction. Let's look at the parameter table really quickly here for this guy. And in the parameter table, we have again this radome deploy state table. And there are those 4 configurations in there. This one's very simple, as you might expect. We've got that legs variable and the radome deploy variable in here. These are both expressions, of course. And for each configuration, we've got a set of values for those expressions out there. And of course, we can come and add new configurations and rename these and sort them and do all those kinds of things. But this can be as simple or as complex as we want. This can be 2 expressions like this, or it can be a dozen or 100 and or more. And again, each time we set a configuration here, this will do this. Set all those expressions simultaneously. Interactively, of course, we can come and just double click these and that'll do the same thing here, setting these. Okay. And we can deactivate them all here if we want to. So this frees up the expressions and allows us to manipulate those directly, right? Now, on the author side, let's look at what this looks like. As we go into product template author now, to go to do this, what we'll see is when we select all of the expressions that are in a parameter table, that parameter table will show up in our template objects out here for the product template. And if we want to include that on our dialog, we can do that. We can either, now it's already on, so it's telling me to remove it, but I can drag and drop it on there, or I can double click it and it'll add it on there. And yeah, once it goes on, of course, this is creating that option menu up there, right? And the interesting thing here is that we'll see all of those configurations out there. Those will be available. We can choose which of these we want to hide or show on the dialog, right? This can make that list longer or shorter out there. So we don't need to expose all of the configurations necessarily in the context of a template. We similarly can choose to include or not include the none down here. So if we have a situation where we're genuinely not wanting to, we're in that state. We're in the actively in the none right now, so it doesn't want me to hide that one at the moment. But if we have a state where we genuinely don't want people to play with the parameters independently, right? We don't want to have these down here below, for instance. We can remove that none. This is common on the feature template side for things where we know we've got standard size fasteners, for instance, where our options are going to be say an M5 bolt or an M6 or an M8 or an M10, and we don't have the option for an M6.28 or something like that that's somewhere in the middle. And so we don't want people monkeying with parameters. We can disable the none there, if that makes sense, right? So this right now is set to do an immediate update, you can see, so we can have it go and immediately start updating the model. This case here, very lightweight model with just a couple of parameters. That makes sense. If this is super heavy, you may choose to delay that. This, of course, can be coupled with update for external change or part family update as usual here too, right? Good. So that's kind of exciting. Here again, as we go to one of these configurations, product template author here is smart enough to know that when we're running this template out here, that we're going to disable these other ones. If these are expressions that are participating in that parameter table, again, PTS is going to take care of, or product template author is going to take care of the fact that these are not supposed to be manipulated independent of a parameter table that they're already part of, right? And frankly, that's what it's doing really is looking at the normal kind of locking mechanism inside NX. If we bail out of this one for just a second, right now, I think we're in the state here, where none of these are active. And if we go look at our expressions for this part, we've got that radome deploy and the legs deploy legs expressions here, and we can manipulate these right now, right? We can put in a value for one of these at the moment. When we make one of those configurations active here, for instance, let's go there just for fun. So we've got a green one here that's active. Then in the expressions dialog, we're going to see those be locked, right? As these are driven right now by the parameter table specifically. So we're not going to edit these independently. And again, product template author is actually looking at this lock state. And if these are in that lock state, then you'll see insensitive widgets on the product template interface, right? So that's this here where these are grayed out. We can't interact with these. That's actually just a natural byproduct of the fact that the parameter table is locking them, right? So that all plays together very, very nicely. And yeah, so I hope that's all very useful to you.